Suki, thank you so much for coming on the Job Stories podcast. To get us started, do you mind to just quickly interview, Lord have mercy, introduce yourself and what is your job now? What do you do for work?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. I am the founder of Lexington Public Relations. We help businesses get their story heard. We do that through public relations, content marketing, but we really work with a pretty wide array of, founder-led companies that might be VC backed or Fortune 500s and everything in between across industries, but helping them figure out what makes what they do interesting and who are the audiences they want to reach and helping them get in front of those people. It's really about finding your story, sharing it, and in a way that's, helps your business growth and your development and makes people, take a moment and want to know what you do.
I am been leaning into this kind of concept a little bit more, and I wanted to see if you relate, but like this idea, like having a company, like a B2B company, but that comes in and really supports their vision, right? Like your business is to really come in and support what they do, right? I'm leaning into that more because we have a similar role in recruiting, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. And we work with clients across a really maybe unusually wide array of industries. So we work everyone in like supply chain to beauty, fashion, tech, and all things in between. But I hope, and I like to believe that we feel like a branch that's an internal branch, not like an external party that's like, we're really engaged in what's going on. So if we're supporting the marketing team, we're usually supporting a marketing or sales team, that they feel like we're part of that group, right? We're part of that planning to make their lives easier, to make them feel more successful, but that we're, really involved, that we understand their business, that we're there, we're fast, they can count on us to help them, achieve the goals they're working towards. That we don't feel like some third party, right?
Yeah.
I think it is a little, but I think also it's those relationships you build, right? And the way you work with people. So, we have clients we've just started with, but we also have clients that we've been working with for like 8 years, right? Or across various companies. So that's always really cool too, I think, where you're able to kind of get that kind of a rapport with somebody.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's tough because it like only comes with time, right? Like that's like the relationship thing. It's because I know as another founder, you're like, hey, what's the next thing to where we can like get some, it's always revenue, right? Or whatever. Like looking at the next quarter, like how can we get this to go faster? And the thing you're talking about, relationships, is a much longer thing,
It is.
Managing that's interesting.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's very true. Very true.
I'm curious too if you enjoyed. I mean, you gotta love this idea because you were talking about how y'all work across a lot of different verticals. Like you probably get to hear tons of different cool ideas and concepts that are being put out to the world, right?
Yeah, I absolutely love it. I think it creates a lot of interest in our day too, as opposed to just kind of being on one sector alone. And I think really hearing like, we just helped a supply chain client launch this amazing robotic battery swap for forklifts, right? That's just changing the way warehouses operate. And we also just worked with a client on launching a brand new beauty line, that's kind of really being used by influencers and, that's kind of connected to a fashion brand that come out. But I think just having that diversity, it keeps things interesting. And you do really get the opportunity to work with different, executive leaders or founders, helping them grow their business. And I think it's interesting. There's more overlap in the tactics you might use than than you might think. I think the way you would get a story shared, no matter what sector somebody's working in, or, I think the way you think about it and the tactics, they're really actually quite similar. So I do like it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. Wanted to hear this about you as well. So being a founder, like how did we get to that point? Like have you always wanted to be a storyteller? Have you always been a storyteller? Like how did we get to the entrepreneur
That part's
phase?
more logical. I think opening my own business was much more accidental. I started in PR. I went to school out in New York City. First couple jobs were there in beauty PR, Enzo, which is part of Louis Vuitton, Moët Hennessy, so very like luxury goods. And then for Elizabeth Arden, beauty. And then I went out to San Francisco and I did PR for Williams-Sonoma. And those were all in-house positions. Learned a lot. I feel like I gained a lot of great confidence in the skills that I was bringing. And I was in my late 20s in San Francisco and just, I don't know. I was just kind of like, yeah, I'd like to try something different, but I don't really want to just go to work in-house somewhere else, having more variety. I think I could use this and create something new. It's just like, I'm going to quit my job and be a consultant. I'm going to be a consultant. And we're really supportive friends and family. And they're like, yeah, great. And I found my first client a month later. It was a brand. So I had done PR for Williams Sonoma, and it was a brand that was sold there and kind of came to me, found me, and that really like opened more doors. And then from there, it really just grew. So it's been 12 years now. It's been a long time. And, we've grown, obviously that kind of morphed into more of an agency, building a team. I also moved many times across the country back and forth. And I think, because I started out much more in the lifestyle, beauty, fashion sector, but I think those moves in different cities where, when I came to Nashville, digital health, obviously a really big market, and kind of fell into doing some new sectors or connecting with VC firms that might have had different portfolio clients. And I have ended up working in a lot of sectors I never dreamed that I would be working, but I love it. Right. But yeah, the agency part was definitely, I'll be transparent. I did not have a big business plan. It was like, I can do this. I had a lot of confidence that I could do it. And I was excited about it. And I was ready to hustle. And I kind of grown up in New York learning that. But that's the last story. Little bit. Yeah, it's fantastic. The last little bit is my favorite part, because that was kind of the point of this podcast. I mean, me and my brother Matthew were sitting around as new founders and kind of talking about like our career paths, and they're just so non-traditional in so many ways, and kind of demystifying what it means to found a company or be a CEO of a company. It's like when we were younger, it's like that's good for them, but I could never do that. Well, we found out we just kind of went for it. So now we're technically founders. Like, so I love that idea of just going for it. Go for it, give it a try and see where it heads. I didn't know where it was going to head. Maybe, and if it didn't work out, I was kind of like, well, I'll go back and I'll find something else. I'll do something else. And I had the luxury to be able to do that. And, some luck and a lot of hard work, right, to help kind of get those initial clients, which I think is the hardest part. But it's interesting. I think word of mouth and relationship, I guess back to relationships, not just like in the PR work I do, but kind of in building my own business has been really critical. I think it's always kind of just like rolled into the next.
If I went and talked to the close friends and family that supported you along the journey, if I asked them like, is Suki a risk taker? Has she always been a risk taker? Would they kind of confirm that?
I feel like, yeah, I think I'm a risk taker, but I am. I'm very confident in certain things that I think I can achieve, but not everything. I think I like to think I'm like, I understand like certain things. I knew I could do PR well. I knew how to work. I knew I'd done it for really large companies. I knew I could implement those same tactics that drove results, right, at larger corporations for clients and for smaller businesses or, different types of businesses. And I think I had a lot of confidence in that. But to do entrepreneurship, I guess you have to be a risk taker, right? You're jumping into an unknown. I don't know if I've never thought of myself like that, but it's interesting when you frame it that way.
Yeah, it's tough.
I don't know. I don't think I really thought about the risk part. It was just like, this is it. I'm gonna do this.
Which probably
I can do this. Why can't I do this? Know.
It probably speaks more to the fact that you're a massive risk taker. It's like you're so comfortable with risk, you didn't even recognize that it was one.
Yeah, I was just like, I can do this. If I set my heart to it, I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna hustle, and I'm gonna make it happen. Know. And if it doesn't work, then what's the worst thing in the world? It's not that bad. I think a lot of times I like to think about that. Right, when you're stressed out about a situation, what's the worst thing that could happen? A lot of times it's not as bad as you think, right? I'm going to go find something else to do, right? And that's not the end of the world. And if it doesn't work out, that's not the end of the world. I think that takes some of that pressure off when you're in those hard moments.
No, right? That's honestly really good. I mean, people around me probably find me super annoying when I say things like this, but like, yeah, I know. And you're right. Like some of these things aren't life or death. Like, like it's not as serious as I think I take it sometimes, or it probably speaks to a lot of things in life, but yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I always like to ask this to kind of piggybacking off of just entrepreneurship and being a founder. What's What do you think's probably been your favorite part of running your own business? Because much different. You worked in corporate too, so much different, I think.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite
You're right,
part?
Yeah. I like the feeling that you're growing something of your own. I think that's really exciting to feel like, wow, this has been really hard. This has been a struggle, but like I've seen the success. And I think like that confidence that gives you and that feeling of like just really feeling excited about what you've created. I like the flexibility that it provides. It's a weird flexibility. It's a lot of extra hours you work as an entrepreneur or as a founder, but then you do have a certain level of control over, your schedule and the way you do things. I obviously support clients, and so you're always working for somebody, right? But I think I do feel like I have a little more ownership over the way I do things and what I choose to do or not do. So I do like that part. Or, even as a mom, a working mom, having flexibility to be like, I'm going to go do this right now for my kids because that's important, and I'm going to step away. And I'm not to say you don't have that, but I feel that I have personally like more control over that in my world. So that's something that I like about it. And I think I like the mix of getting to see, what different companies are doing and what they're working on, and being a part of a lot of different launches and events, and like every company's in their world and what they're bringing to the market or what they're revealing or introducing, and it's kind of this all-encompassing thing, and kind of getting into step into that and support that, but in a lot of different layers. I like that part of it.
Yeah, you're making me think. I mean, for us, the word that comes to mind is like kind of growth. Like we help people grow their teams. You're helping businesses that are growing, like share their story, like celebrating other people's growth, right? But also for you and I as founders, like our growth too. Like it's all
remembering to do that though. That took me a lot of years. Oh, I'm really good at obviously I'm a publicist. I get people in the news and I get them interviews. And I was like, well, I'm not doing this for my own business, or I'm not talking about my own business. It's a lot harder to do that. I think for me, it was a lot harder to get to that point to talk about myself in the same way that I would discuss a client, which is kind of absurd, when you're pitching, hey, here's the things you should do to drive visibility for your work or what you do. It's easier sometimes to hide behind a client or somebody else and to remember to do that for your own work.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a fantastic point, especially for folks in media, such as yourself. I've heard that. It's like we spend so much time doing media for other people. Like I've heard that before. That's kind of a tension. I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you had any mentors along the way between corporate to now? Like have you had anybody kind of help you along the way when you're building your business?
I haven't had like a very specific mentor, I would say, but I've had simultaneously, I've had so many people that taught me things or supported me along the way, right? I think all of those skills that I learned in-house, right, at Elizabeth Arden or at Kenzo and at Williams-Sonoma, those are the skills that have helped me from a business standpoint, set me up for success to be able to offer all those services and understand how to find clients, manage clients, handle different types of personalities, all the things you do in PR, right? So I think for sure the supervisors that I had in those roles, were really important. I think my parents founded a business together when I was a kid and grew it and sold it. So I had grown up without really thinking about it, but watching that, right, that process and seeing it as something normal and, remembering when they're thinking of the name for the business and, all those like things you overhear as a kid. So I think that definitely, and I think I was fortunate. I think both my close friends and family, everyone was really supportive when no one said, oh, you're crazy. You're going to quit your job and go do that. Like I did have a lot of support at the time. So I think that's, something that's really was helpful, right? Because I do know like even a lot of entrepreneurs that I work with were, when they founded their businesses, a lot of the friends and family were like, that's nuts. Like you should not be leaving your job or doing that. That's not going to work. I mean, I've heard that from a lot of other entrepreneurs. So I do think that was really helpful. So I think rather than one person, it's all the people along the way, right? There's so many, we don't get anywhere without all of the people around us, I think, right? There's so many people that support our success, like from the time you begin working to today. And I think it's all of those small, like the person that believed in at a VC that thought, hey, Lexington PR, they could work in these other sectors. I'm going to introduce them to my portfolio companies and help open those doors. Or, I mean, there's so many people along the way that have, I think, helped in that journey that I appreciate. And I see them, it's, I don't know if it's mentors, but it's similar in the same way, right? They're the people that move you along. So not someone saying, hey, here's what you need to do that I could call. I didn't have that, but I had a lot of people help and support me on the way.
Yeah. Your story's a lot like mine. Okay. That's how I feel too. Like, it's not necessarily been like one person that we have a scheduled call once a week. And
I never had that.
Yeah, same. No. I definitely have people that I guess I could, but that's not the nature of our relationship.
Yeah.
My brother has that. He's got gentleman out of Texas that they literally they have a weekly call. Like, he pours into my brother, and that's really cool. But mine, I think back to I lived in LA for a little bit and was around a lot of folks that are in entertainment and they're close friends of mine, and just learning from them in a completely different industry than me. I lived there for a little while and in Nashville, and I'm kind of with you. Mine, I could probably point to hundreds of people and experiences more than any one scheduled meeting or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But it all makes everything what it is, right? It all opens those doors and it all helps you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're a lot alike in that way. I wanted to also kind of get this thought from you in terms of running a business and the ups and downs, because you've leaned into a couple of those things a second ago. Sure. What's that like for you, managing highs and lows?
I think I try to celebrate the small wins, especially in PR, because PR in general, we do a lot more than just earn media placement, but that's kind of the bread and butter, right? Is getting clients and press. And sometimes as publicists, there's a saying that you're only as good as your last feature, right? And it's like the minute you get one, you got to get the next, right? But I think it's really thinking about not getting caught up in that kind of mentality. Like, celebrate those big wins, but they're not going to come every day. They're not. And I think anyone that sells you on that in business or entrepreneurship, right? Like, that's not a real story. So you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, you're going to look back at things. I think if you learn from your mistakes, right, that's the most important thing. What could you do differently, and recognize them, because you need to kind of, what could I have changed or done better here? But I think just taking a moment to celebrate the small things, the small wins that you might have, and with your team, and not just lazing through the day, or making sure that you take the time to do that is really important. And I think it just changes your overall perspective. But there were times when my husband has heard me probably at least 3 times seriously say, I'm done, throwing in the towel. I can't do this. We had our first child, I just found it very challenging to figure out balancing. And I was like, I can't have time to be with my kid, and I can't have time for my clients, and I can't do this, and I'm not going to do this. Like, why am I doing this? I mean, I've had probably 2 or 3 just real serious moments. And I think what always helped me through those, and I will credit him a bit with thinking about this, is where do you see yourself in the next couple of years, though, in the long term? And I think for me, I saw myself running Lexington PR, right, in the long term, as opposed to, and someone makes sense to stop doing that work, that I'm all for that too. I think for me, I did see myself doing this business in long term, and remembering that and remembering what my ultimate goals were helped me through the immediate challenges, or to be able to better address them. But it's hard. I don't have all the answers by me. I won't. Yeah.
That's so good. I've only recently been tapping into this, and I was talking about this with a friend earlier, but there was a day, first with our recruiting business, that nobody knew who we were at all. Like, there was a day where it was just me and my brother. Same thing with those podcasts. There was a day where we didn't even have one, and now we do. Yeah. And now we do have clients for recruiting. Now we do have candidates that come to us. But there was a day when there was 0. So if I just kind of back the truck up a little bit, I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool.
There's been a lot of progress. So there was a day when I had 1 client, right? 1 small client, right? But it was a great client. It was someone that believed in me, right? And so opened that door for more to come. Yeah, absolutely. That's remembering that is important. Yeah. I
love it. What would be a good way if you're okay with it, for people that hear this podcast to get in touch with you after?
I would love to hear from anybody directly. Email is great. It's Suki, Suki, at lexingtonpr.com. and LinkedIn. I'm always up on LinkedIn or Instagram as well. But, and our website's just lexingtonpr.com. So
cool. We'll make sure and link. Yeah, we'll link all that in the description. Let's finish with this. I forgot to ask first. Is there anything you're excited about personally or professionally coming up in the near future?
I'm just excited about, the point that our company is at. We've had a lot of growth in the last 2 years specifically, and really growing the team and expanding client work and just feeling like poised at a really great place. And that's not every day, right, that you get to that. And we've gone through a lot of ups and downs. And I'm like, I got to take time off. I can't do this much. And being in a place where I feel like we're just really poised to keep growing, and we've got a great team in place, and just working with clients that appreciate what we do. Gratitude is such an important part of everything, and really feeling that. You don't always feel that, right? I don't know if you feel that in your role, but sometimes when you're in that client, you're serving clients constantly, and people might appreciate it, but they don't always express that. But I think really feeling like we're a good part of teams and that people appreciate our work, and just work's been fun. I think being back out at events, and I'm looking forward to coming to Nashville for Nashville Entrepreneur Week. And, I was there last month for a client launch party. I think those years, it's been a while since the pandemic, but I think being out and having that, seeing people and having cool things going on. And, we're talking about doing something with CMA Fest in June with, one client. I don't know. That stuff that gives you exciting things to look forward to. So I like all of that dynamic energy. I was like, I forgot how kind of dull my job had gotten in the middle of a pandemic, when we were just at the computers, and it was different. So it's nice to be back out there. Yeah.
I think you and I are a lot alike. Like I'm learning, it's like just being around human beings is so filling for me.
It's like energizing.
100%. Yeah. My wife's a little bit of the opposite. I mean, she's definitely a very, very big energy and people person, but like, if she could just be home all day, every day, she's cool with that.
Like, I gotta get out. I gotta get out.
I know.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. We're a lot alike, I think. Yeah. Well, we'll be excited to have you back in Nashville when you're here. But for anybody that's listening to this, we'll make sure that they have your contact that can get in touch with you for y'all's services, or just you in general, or whatever. Yeah. Thanks for
absolutely.
Appreciate you doing this. This is awesome.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate you having me on, and happy Friday.
You too. Thanks, Suki. We'll see you soon. Appreciate you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.